The bell above the door chimed with a sound so delicate it felt like a secret. Dreamweave Bridal. Even the name sounded like a promise. I took a steadying breath. The scent of lemon polish and gardenia candles wrapping around me. My fingers tightened around the ivory box in my hands. Scarlett, you're here. Marissa, my consultant, floated over, her smile as perfectly calibrated as the store's lighting. I asked that the final piece. The veil. I confirmed. My voice catching. My grandmother's. Liam's mother had it restored. It's perfect. He's going to lose his mind when he sees you. She took the box with reverence. Liam's not with you. Last minute investor meeting. He said he wants the full reveal to be at the altar. I tried to mimic a swoon, but a flicker of unease I couldn't name made it feel stiff. Liam had been distracted lately, attentive, but in a rehearsed way. I chalked it up to pre-wedding jitters and his high-stakes job. Well, let's not keep your gown waiting. The dressing room was a soft cocoon of blush silk. My gown hung in the center, a vision of vintage-inspired lace and structured satin. It wasn't just a dress. It was the dress, the one I'd seen in a dream and then, miraculously, found on a forgotten rack at a sample sale. Liam had said it looked like it was made for me. His eyes had held something deeper than admiration the day. Something like recognition, which I'd foolishly mistaken for awe. I was halfway into the delicate layers, Marissa's cool fingers fastening tiny buttons up my back, when the outer curtain swished aside. Knock, knock. Hope I'm not crashing the party. Chloe, Liam's stepsister, stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame with a casualness that felt like an invasion. She was all art school edge in ripped black jeans and a band t-shirt. Her dark hair a messy braid over one shoulder, a stark contrast to the room's ethereal femininity. Chloe, I forced a smile, my skin prickling under the lace. I didn't know you were coming. Liam mentioned the final fitting. Thought I'd offer some. Moral support. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, which were already sweeping over the dress. Dissecting it, don't let me stop the show. Marissa, sensing the temperature drop, finished the buttons briskly, all set. Scarlett, step up. Darling. I ascended the small circular podium, facing the trifold mirror. For a second, I saw it. The bride, the dream, the future Mrs. Liam Thorne. Then Chloe's reflection appeared behind mine, her head tilted. Like there's a problem, I said, keeping my tone light, playing the gracious, almost sister. It's a beautiful dress. Scarlett, really? She took a step closer, her finger hovering near my hip. This lace. Though, Alasa, right. Or is it Chantilly? It's Alasa. Marissa said brightly, exquisite quality. It is, but it's modern Alasa. Machine-made, not antique. Chloe's gaze met mine in the mirror. I just figured. With Liam being so obsessed with his family's legacy, with authenticity, you'd want something that actually matched the heirloom vibe. His mom's veil is actual 1920s Belgian lace, isn't it? This. She gave a tiny, dismissive shrug. It's a bit of a dissonance. Don't you think? Like wearing a replica with a real Picasso. The air left the room. Marissa froze, a hairpin halfway to my updo. A hot flush crept up my neck. The veil is an accent. Chloe, the dress stands on its own. Of course it does. She walked a slow circle around me. The cut is very flattering. Very familiar. Actually, classic, yet simple. The way she said simple made it sound like boring. Are you doing the cathedral train? It's a lot for a beachside ceremony. It's a detachable train, I said through clenched teeth. For the reception. Practical. Her smile was sharp. Liam always did appreciate practicality. In most things. The dig was subtle, barbed. I turned to face her directly, the satin whispering with the movement. Was there something specific you wanted to say? Chloe, or did you just come here to critique my choices? For a flash, The cool mask slipped. Something raw and furious shone in her green eyes that I came to see the dress. The famous dress. Her voice dropped, almost to a murmur. IT really is something. He has such a specific type. Before I could unravel that, the curtain flew open again. They're my girls. Liam's voice, smooth as bourbon, filled the space. He looked effortlessly handsome, his tailored suit a testament to the meeting he'd just left. His gaze swept over me, and the familiar warmth flooded his blue eyes, scarlet. My God, you're breathtaking. He crossed the room in 2 strides, taking my hands, his thumbs stroking my knuckles. The tension in my shoulders eased a fraction. Then he turned to Chloe, his arm sliding around her stiff shoulders in a brotherly hug she didn't return. And you, making trouble already, just admiring the artistry. Chloe said, flatly, extracting herself from his hold. She was just explaining how my dress isn't authentic enough for your mother's veil. I said, unable to keep the bite out of my voice. Liam's laugh was a soft, dismissive sound. He cupped my face. You could wear a burlap sack and that veil would be honored. You're the only thing that needs to be authentic here. My love. And you are perfect. He kissed my forehead, and the last of my defensiveness melted. This was why I loved him. He grounded me. He glanced at Chloe, his expression shifting to gentle reproach at being nice. Chloe, this is a happy day. Every day is a happy day when you're around. Liam, she said, but it sounded like a curse. She grabbed her worn leather jacket from a chair. I've seen what I needed to see. Congrats. Scarlett, it's a real showstopper. She left without another word. The silence she left behind was thick. Don't mind her. Liam sighed, pulling me close, my lace bodice pressing against his wool suit. You know how she is. Ever since Dad married her mom, she's been jealous of anything good in my life. She'll come around. She was touching the dress. I mumbled into his chest. Before you came in, it was weird. Not like, oh, pretty fabric weird. More like assessing it. She's an art student. They're tactile and dramatic. He leaned back, smiling down at me now. Can I have a moment with my stunning future wife? Alone. Marissa took the hint and slipped out. Liam's hands rested on my waist. His gaze intense. You are a vision. Scarlet Seeley. In 4 weeks, you'll be Scarlet Thorn, and I will be the luckiest man alive. The words were perfect, but for a microsecond, his eyes seemed to look through me, at the dress itself, with a satisfaction that felt proprietary, not about me, but about the whole picture. That night, after a dinner where Liam was charming and attentive, I fought the lingering unease. Chloe's just a messed up kid, I told myself, sorting laundry in the penthouse's spacious walk-in closet. She's trying to get under my skin because Liam's her only stable family, and she feels threatened. I was folding one of Liam's bespoke suits, the fine wool slippery under my fingers, when I felt it, a stiff piece of paper in the inner breast pocket, probably a dry cleaning ticket he'd forgotten. It wasn't. It was a faded, crumpled ticket stub. Sunset Gorge Music Arts Festival. Weekend pass. The date, August 17th to 19th, 2019. My blood ran cold. Liam and I had met in 2021. He'd told me that in the summer of 2019, he was in Frankfurt, completing a crucial summer internship at Deutsche Bank. A story he'd told more than once, usually to contrast his all work no play, past with the life of adventure he promised me. But this ticket stub was for a massive, notoriously hedonistic festival in California, 3,000 miles from Frankfurt. Hands trembling, I turned the stub over. There, in faded blue ink, written in a feminine, looping hand, was an inscription, to my forever, love, V. Beneath the words, a small, carefully drawn heart. The world tilted. The pristine closet, They ordered rows of his shoes and ties. The faint smell of his cedarwood cologne that I tea all receded, replaced by a roaring in my ears. V. Who's V? A fling he'd forgotten to mention. The festival could have been a one-off. A lie about Frankfurt to seem more serious. But the writing, the heart, oh my forever. This wasn't a casual fling. And the date, it was exactly 1 year before the global pandemic shut everything down. A time capsule from a life he'd meticulously erased. I sank onto the plush carpet, the ticket stub a burning brand against my palm. The perfect image of my fiancé, the man who had planned every detail of our future with assured precision, developed a hairline crack, and through it, I glimpsed the unsettling dark of something hidden, something that began with a festival and a woman named V. Chloe's voice echoed in my mind, laced with a new, sinister meaning. He has such a specific type. Was the dress not just my dream, but someone else's? I looked down at the stub, the cheerful festival logo mocking me. The first domino had tipped. I didn't know it yet, but the cascade had already begun. The ticket stub sat on my vanity, a silent, papery accusation. I'd placed it there after a sleepless night, a test for myself. Could I look at it each morning and pretend it meant nothing? The sun hit it on the third day, illuminating the faded heart. To my forever, the words felt like a shard of glass in my gut. I hadn't confronted Liam. Not yet. Confrontation required evidence, not just a sick feeling and an old ticket. I needed to understand the shape of the lie before I drew its outline for him. So, I watched. You're quiet. My love, Liam remarked over breakfast, his fingers tapping a rhythm on the Wall Street Journal. The penthouse was filled with the aroma of his single-origin Ethiopian coffee, final fittings wearing you out. I stirred my green tea, just a lot of details. The florist is being difficult about the peonies. He reached across the granite island, his hand covering mine. His touch was warm. Sure, tell them money is no object. I want your day to be perfect. His eyes were the clear, guileless blue of a summer sky. You deserve perfect. Perfect. The word now had a hollow, rehearsed ring. Did you tell V the same thing that I wanted to scream? Instead, I smiled. Thank you. I'll handle it. That afternoon, the dress arrived at my apartment for safekeeping until the wedding. I'd insisted, citing nerves about it being at the bridal shop. Liam had chuckled, called me adorable, and arranged for a climate-controlled garment bag and a special stand. When the doorbell rang, I expected a delivery person. It was Chloe. She stood there, holding a large, sleek garment bag as if it contained toxic waste. Her eyes were shadowed. He sent me, she said flatly, not waiting for an invitation. She brushed past me into the living room, said you wanted this personally delivered. God forbid the plebeian delivery guy touches the sacred shroud. You didn't have to, I said, closing the door. My pulse kicked up a notch. Her presence was a live wire in my calm. Investigative space. Yes, I did. She slung the bag over the back of my sofa with a disrespectful thump. He asks. I deliver. Good little stepsister. She turned. Her gaze sharp. You look like hell. Gee, thanks. No, I mean it. You have that look. I found something I wish I look. She crossed her arms, leaning against the wall. Let me guess. A receipt for an engagement ring that isn't yours. A love note in a book. My composure cracked. Why would you say that? She shrugged, a studied nonchalance that didn't reach her eyes. Just seems to be the season for it. I took a step toward her, abandoning pretense. What do you know? Chloe. She met my stare, a silent war raging in her expression. Fear, anger, and something else a desperate need I know that dress has bad juju. She finally said, nodding toward the garment bag. It's a dress. Is it? She pushed off the wall and walked to the bag. With a sudden, violent zip, she yanked it open. My wedding gown spilled out, a cloud of lace and satin. Chloe's hand didn't stroke it this time. Her fingers curled into the fabric of the skirt, gripping it tight. Or is it a costume? Let go of it. My voice was low, dangerous. Why? What's the worst that could happen? Her smile was brittle. It gets a wrinkle, a stain. Her other hand dipped into the pocket of her leather jacket and emerged holding a small, travel-sized bottle of Merlot, the kind served on airplanes. My breath hitched. What are you doing? An experiment. She popped the cap with her thumb. Let's see how perfect it really is. How well it handles accidents. Chloe, don't you dare. I lunged forward, but she was quicker, twisting away. The bottle angled toward the pristine white satin bodice. Stop her from what? Scarlet, she hissed, her eyes blazing from saving you. He's going to destroy you. He destroys everything he touches. He just makes it look beautiful first. The room froze. The bottle hovered, an inch from the dress. Her words hung between us, stark and terrifying. Who is V? I whispered. The bottle wavered. Chloe's bravado faltered, replaced by sheer, unvarnished shock. You found something. A ticket stub. Sunset Gorge, 2019. Inscribed to him from V. A harsh, humorless laugh escaped her. You found a ticket. Cute. That's just the trailer. Honey, you want to see the feature presentation. Her grip on the wine bottle loosened. She looked from the dress to me, a decision crystallizing in her eyes. Lock it up. What? The dress. Lock it away somewhere he can't get to it. Somewhere I can get to it. She recapped the wine bottle and shoved it back in her pocket. Then meet me. Tomorrow. My studio. Come alone. Don't tell him. She zipped the garment bag back up with jerky, furious movements. Why should I trust you? You just tried to ruin my wedding dress. I wasn't trying to ruin it. She spat, turning on me that I was trying to postpone it. A stained dress means a delayed wedding. Delayed means time. Time for you to open your eyes. She headed for the door, then paused. He's not what you think. Scarlet, he's a collector. And you. Her eyes swept over me. From my dark hair to my practical flats, that you're about to become his prize exhibit. Again. She left, slamming the door behind her. I stood there, shaking. A collector. Prize exhibit. Again. The ticket stub was a pebble. Chloe's warning was an avalanche. I dragged the heavy garment bag into my home office, the one room Liam never used, and locked the door. Then I texted Allison, my best friend and business partner. Me, emergency. Need to see you. Can't talk on phone. Allison, on my way. Bring wine or drink it. Me, both. Allison arrived within 20 minutes. Her blonde bob, perfectly sleek. Her expression shifting from concern to alarm as I poured out the story at the ticket. Chloe's visit. The near wine disaster. The ominous meeting proposed. Holy shit. Scarlet. She breathed, sinking onto my sofa. This is Lifetime movie shit. It feels insane. I said, pacing Liam, a collector. He's normal. He's brilliant and kind, and he remembers my mom's favorite flower. And he lied about being in Germany during a music festival where some mystery woman called him her forever. Allison said, drilly, that let's not canonize him just yet. She took a large gulp of the Pinot Noir we'd opened. Okay, we're event planners. We handle disasters. This is a potential client disaster of the bride finds out groom is a serial killer variety. We need a plan. Chloe said to meet her. Alone. Hell no. You're not going to some grungy art studio in Bushwick alone. I'm coming. I'll wait outside. If you text me peonies that are code for a problematic client that I'm coming in with metaphorical guns blazing. The next evening, under a drizzly gray sky, I stood outside Chloe's studio in a converted warehouse. The air smelled of wet brick and turpentine. My heart was a drum solo against my ribs. Peonies, I whispered to Allison, who gave me a sharp nod from her idling Prius a half block away. I knocked. The door was opened by a guy covered in clay dust. Chloe, your 3 o'clock is here, he yelled over his shoulder before disappearing into the maze of partitions. Chloe appeared, wiping her hands on an already stained rag. She looked even more exhausted than yesterday you came. Alone as I'm going to get, I said, stepping inside. The studio was chaos, canvases leaning against walls, sculptures under sheets, the pungent smell of oil paint and weed. It was the antithesis of Liam's sterile, ordered world. Smart. She led me to a corner partially shielded by a large, abstract painting of what looked like a face melting. There was a ratty couch and a small TV hooked up to an old, boxy DV player, the kind no one had used in 15 years. On the TV stand, next to a half-eaten slice of pizza, lay a single, unlabeled DV tape. My stomach dropped. Sit, Chloe commanded, pointing to the couch. She picked up the tape, her fingers almost tender after you left the boutique. I went back. I lied, said Marissa left her phone. I needed to see the dress one more time. To be sure. Sure of what? That it was the dress. She slotted the tape into the player with a decisive click. The TV screen flickered to life, showing fuzzy blue static. Why Mom married Liam's dad 5 years ago. I was 17, a pissed-off little goth intruder in their perfect, wasp-y world. Liam was the golden boy, polite, successful, handsome, too perfect. I didn't trust him. I started snooping in his old room at the family house in Greenwich. She picked up a remote that I found this in a locked box at the back of his closet. The key was in his football trophy. Real subtle. She hit play. The static resolved into shaky, sun-drenched footage. The quality was poor, early digital. The scene was a campground, tents and banners visible, a handmade sign, glitter and glue barely visible. Read, Sunset Gorge, our first. The camera panned, and there he was, a younger Liam, maybe 24 or 25. His hair was longer, curling at his neck. He wore a faded band t-shirt and cargo shorts, a far cry from his current Tom Ford armor. He was laughing, his head thrown back, utterly unguarded. A joy I recognized but had never seen so. Wild. Then he turned, reaching out a hand. She came into the frame. Black hair, long and straight, parted in the middle. A slender frame. She was turned away, adjusting something. Then she spun around, laughing, and took his hand. She was wearing my wedding dress. Not like me dress. It was a me dress. The same intricate alasa, lace overlay on the bodice. The same sweetheart neckline. The same silhouette. On her. It was paired with battered cowboy boots and a flower crown of daisies. My hand flew to my mouth. A choked sound escaped. On screen, Liam pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her waist from behind. He buried his face in her neck, saying something the tinny audio didn't catch. She leaned back into him, her smile radiant, blissful. She turned her head, and he kissed her, a deep, slow, passionate kiss that spoke of intimacy and ownership. The camera dropped, pointing at the grass for a second, then swung back up as another voice, a male friend, shouted, "Get a room." You too. The Liam on screen gave the finger with a grin, then looked back at the woman, a TV with an expression of such naked. Total adoration, it felt like a physical blow. The video cut, then restarted in what looked like a dimly lit, wood-paneled bar. They were slow dancing, her head on his shoulder, the white lace of my dress glowing under the string lights. The shot zoomed in clumsily on their linked hands. On her finger was a ring, a simple, pear-shaped diamond solitaire. The video ended. The screen returned to blue static, humming softly in the silent studio. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The room tilted, the smells of paint and dust suddenly overwhelming. I was vaguely aware of a low, keening sound. It was coming from me. Her name was Vivian. Chloe said, her voice quiet and grim, Vivian Ross. They were engaged. Summer of 2019. That was her engagement party. At the festival, I stared at the static. The ghost of the image burned into my retinas. Midris. My fiancé. Another woman. What? My voice was a rasp. What happened to her? Chloe ejected the tape, holding the small, plastic rectangle like it was a live grenade. That's the million-dollar question. Scarlett. She disappeared. Fall of 2019. Just. Poof. Gone. No body. No note. Nothing. The police. Liam. He was the devastated fiancé. Had an alibi. Out of town for work. Her family was suspicious. But they had nothing. The case went cold. Chloe's eyes were hard, and then, a few years later, along you come. Looking so much like her, it's fucking creepy. And he courts you. And he proposes. And he lets you pick out a wedding dress. She thrust the tape toward me, only you didn't pick it. Did you? He steered you to it. He made you think it was your dream. The memory slammed into me. Liam, casually, flipping through a bridal magazine in bed. His finger stopping on a photo. Now that's a dress. Classic. Timeless. You'd look incredible in something like that. And later, the chance. Discovery at the sample sale. It hadn't been fate. It had been curation. He's not trying to replace her. Chloe said, her voice dropping to a haunted whisper. I think he's trying to recreate her. To get it right this time. And I don't know what getting it right means for someone like him. But I know what it meant for Vivian. She vanished. I took the tape. It was cold and heavy in my hand. The wedding is in 3 weeks. I said numbly, cancel it. Chloe urged, her desperation palpable. Call it off. Tell him you know. And say what? That his weird stepsister gave me an old tape of him with an ex. He'll explain it away. He'll say she was unstable, obsessed, lying. He'll make me doubt myself. I stood up. My levensblij, the planner in me, the problem solver, kicked in through the shock that I need proof. Real proof. Not just this. I held up the tape. I need to know who Vivian Ross was. I need to know what really happened. Chloe looked at me, a flicker of respect in her exhausted eyes, then start digging. But be careful. He's smart, and he's already got you exactly where he wants you. I walked out of the studio into the damp night, the DV tape burning a hole in my purse. Allison was out of her car in an instant, reading my face. Scarlett, Jesus, you're white as a sheet. What happened? I couldn't speak. I just got in the passenger seat, closed my eyes, and saw it again. Liam kissing Vivian in my dress. I wasn't planning a wedding anymore. I was investigating a crime. And the prime suspect was the man I was supposed to marry in 21 days. The drive back to my apartment was a blur of rain-streaked windows and Allison's tense, probing questions. I gave her clipped answers, the words tasting like ash. Vivian, my dress, disappeared. Back inside, the familiar space felt alien. A stage set, Liam's favorite armchair, the framed photo of us in the Hamptons, the sleek espresso machine he'd insisted on buying. They all seemed to watch me with silent accusation. You fool. We need a drink. A real one, Allison declared, heading straight for the bar cart and bypassing the wine for the single malt scotch. She poured 2 generous glasses, shoved one into my hand, and guided me to the sofa. Okay, start from the beginning. Show me. My hands trembled as I took the DV tape from my purse. It looked so innocuous, so obsolete. I slotted it into my own ancient player, a relic from my college film class I'd never gotten rid of. The grainy images flickered to life on my TV. Allison watched in utter silence. When the footage of Liam and Vivian kissing in the bar played, She sucked in a sharp breath that my God. It's you. I mean, it's not, but it is. I finished. My voice hollow. I paused the tape on a clear shot of Vivian's face. The resemblance wasn't identical. Her eyes were a shade lighter, her jaw a bit sharper, but the type was undeniable. Slender, dark-haired, pale. The dress was the clincher. The same damn dress. What are you going to do? Allison whispered. The planner in me. The part that organized chaos for a living. Finally overrode the numb horror. First, we secure the evidence. I ejected the tape. I need digital copies. Multiple. Cloud. External drive. A physical copy mailed to a P.O. box. I'll handle it. Allison said. All business now. Give it to me. I've got a friend in IT who can do it, discreetly. No questions asked. I handed it over, feeling a pang of loss. The tape was my only tangible proof. Second, I need to know everything about Vivian Ross. And I need to know what Liam's story is before I confront him. You're not seriously still considering marrying him. Allison's voice was laced with disbelief. No, I said, the word finally, definitively leaving my lips. It was a death sentence for the life I'd imagined. And it left me cold, but if I just run, he'll spin it. He'll tell everyone I had cold feet, that I was unstable. Chloe will look like a jealous lunatic. And Vivian, she'll stay vanished. I need to know what I'm dealing with. Is he just a pathological liar with a creepy type? Or is he, I couldn't say the word, something worse? Allison finished grimly. She knocked back her scotch. Okay, we're event planners. We're masters of research, vendors, and background checks. Consider Vivian Ross our new client from hell. We'll find her. For the next 48 hours, I moved through my life like a ghost. I attended cake tastings with Liam, nodding as he debated the merits of vanilla bean versus raspberry filling. I smiled vacuously as my mother gushed over seating charts. I was an actress in my own nightmare, and Liam was my oblivious, doting scene partner. You seem distant, darling, he murmured at dinner Friday night, reaching across the table to stroke my hand. His touch now made my skin crawl. I at the stress. We can elope. You know, just you and me on a beach in Bali, like you planned with Vivian. The thought screamed in my head. Just a lot of details. I parroted my earlier line, pulling my hand back to pick up my wine glass. I'll be fine. His eyes studied me, a faint line of concern between his brows. It looked so genuine. Was this the face he showed Vivian before she disappeared? Saturday morning, I told him I was spending the day with Allison finalizing centerpieces. Instead, I went to her apartment, our war room. Okay, Allison said, opening her laptop. Her living room was strewn with coffee cups and printouts. Vivian Ross, age 28 at the time of her disappearance. Freelance graphic designer. Lived in a walk-up in the West Village. She pulled up a Facebook page. Long dormant. The profile picture was the same woman from the tape, smiling in a sun-drenched field. Her timeline was a monument to a life interrupted. Posts about design projects, indie concert shots, a check-in at Sunset Gorge in August 2019. And Liam, lots of Liam, his arm around her, his face nuzzling her neck. The captions were sickening in their normalcy. MY Forever Red Heart. Found my person. Best fiancé a girl could ask for. The articles about her disappearance are sparse. Allison said, pulling up a bookmark, local Queens paper. Online only. West Village woman reported missing. It says she failed to show up for a work meeting. Friends got worried. Fiancé, Liam Thorne, was out of town on business in Chicago, reportedly devastated. Police found no signs of foul play at her apartment. Case went cold after a few months. I read the short article. It was clinical. Hollow, this is it. A talented young woman vanishes off the face of the earth, and this is all the coverage she got. It happens, Allison said softly, especially if the police have no leads and the family lacks resources or media pull. She leaned forward, but Scarlett, look at the date. She was reported missing October 28th, 2019. So, that's 2 months after the festival. Right. But look at her last Facebook post. Allison scrolled. The final post was dated October 15th. A photo of a half-finished painting, captioned, channeling the melancholy. This autumn feels different. Different. I repeated, had she figured him out? Was she trying to leave? Maybe. Or maybe he sensed she was pulling away. Allison's expression was grim. Okay. Next step. The confrontation. You have to hear his side, but you can't go in empty-handed. We need leverage. The tape is leverage. It's a home movie from years ago. He'll say it's a tragic part of his past he didn't want to burden you with. We need something that connects his past to his present behavior. To you. She snapped her fingers. The dress. How did you find it again? I recounted the magazine. The sample sale that he must have tracked it down, or had it remade. So it's a custom piece. A replica. There's a paper trail for that. A designer. A tailor. I'll start digging. She looked at me. You need to talk to Chloe again. Get more. Then, you confront him. On your turf. With me nearby. I nodded. The plan solidifying. A cold ball of dread and resolve in my stomach. That evening, I texted Liam, "Can you come over? We need to talk." His reply was swift. "Of course. Everything okay. 20 minutes. He arrived with a bouquet of my favorite stargazer lilies. His smile easy for my bride-to-be. You sounded serious. Sit down. Liam. My voice was calm, flat. I didn't take the flowers. His smile faltered. He placed the lilies on a coffee table and Saturday, leaning forward. The picture of concerned attentiveness. Scarlett, you're scaring me. What's going on? I picked up the remote and turned on the TV. The frozen image from the DVD player filled the screen. Liam and Vivian, mid-kiss. The lace of my wedding dress vivid against her skin. The color drained from his face. It wasn't a subtle shift. It was a total evacuation. His jaw went slack. For a long, terrifying second, he just stared, his breath coming in a shallow rasp. The mask had not just slipped, it had shattered. Then, the performance began. A tremor ran through him. His eyes welled with tears, genuine-looking tears that spilled over instantly. He made a sound, a choked sob, and dropped his face into his hands at "Oh, God, oh, Scarlett, no." I stood my ground, my arms crossed. Who is she? Liam. He looked up, his face a masterpiece of anguish. Vivian. He whispered, the name a prayer and a curse. Her name was Vivian. Was. She died. Scarlett. A tear traced a perfect path down his cheek. She died just before the pandemic. It was a hiking accident in the Catskills. I found her. It was the most traumatic thing I've ever. He broke off, shoulders shaking. The story was so visceral, so specific. A hiking accident. I found her. IT explained the grief, the secrecy. For a heart-stopping moment, doubt crept in. Could Chloe be wrong? Malicious. You never told me you were engaged before. How could I? He cried, his voice raw, telling that story, reliving that. It would have poisoned everything we have, what we're building. You're not a replacement. Scarlett, you're my salvation. After Vivian, I was in a dark place for a long time. Then I met you. You brought me back to life. He reached for me, but I stepped back. The dress. Liam, why is she wearing my dress? He flinched as if struck that IT was her dress. He said, his voice dropping to a pained hush. She designed it herself. She was so proud of it. After she died, I couldn't bear to part with it. I put it in storage. When you found that sample, it felt like a sign, like she was giving us her blessing. I know how that sounds. but it felt like fate. Like I could have a second chance at the happiness she was robbed of. He was weeping openly now. A broken, beautiful man that I'm so sorry. I should have told you. I was a coward. I was so afraid of losing you, of seeing that look in your eyes, the one you have right now. It was a magnificent lie, woven with just enough truth to be believable, polished with the sheen of profound grief. It was designed to make me feel like a monster for doubting him. I played my card. Quietly, I said, the article I read said she disappeared. Not that she died in an accident. His crying stopped abruptly. He looked up, his wet eyes narrowing a fraction. Article. What article? The one from the Queen's Chronicle. From October 2019. It said she was reported missing. The case is still open. A flicker of something icy and sharp flashed in his eyes. Gone so fast, I might have imagined it. He wiped his face, the movement suddenly weary. Those vultures. He spat, his voice thick with disgust. They sensationalized everything. The police did find her, a week later, in a ravine. But by then, the pandemic was starting. The world was going crazy. It was a local blip. Her family was private, devastated. They didn't want a media circus. They asked for privacy. And I've respected that all these years. He looked at me, his gaze pleading. Who showed you that tape? Scarlett. Who's trying to hurt us? The pivot was masterful, turning the attention from his lie to the accuser. Does it matter? It matters to me, he said, passion flooding back into his voice, because someone is trying to destroy what we have. Someone is cruel enough to use my greatest tragedy to come between us. He stood up, pacing. Was it Chloe? It was. Wasn't it? God, I knew she was troubled. But this. He ran a hand through his hair. She's had this fixation on me since she was a teenager. When I didn't reciprocate, it curdled into something ugly. She's always been jealous of anyone in my life. First Vivian, now you. I should have warned you, but I kept hoping she'd grow out of it. He destroys everything he touches. Chloe's words echoed. He was doing it now, expertly dismantling her credibility, framing her as a jealous, obsessed child. She gave you a tape from a tragic time in my life and twisted it into something sinister. He pressed on, his voice softening as he approached me. Can't you see that? This is exactly what you wanted, to plant this poison in your mind. He gently took my hands. His were warm, solid. I love you, Scarlett. Only you. What Vivian and I had. It was a young love, a first love. It was tragic, and it ended in tragedy. What you and I have is real. It's forever. Please, don't let her take that from us. He pulled me into an embrace. I stood rigid, my mind reeling. His story was seamless. The grieving fiancé, the jealous stepsister, the tragic accident lost in the chaos of a global pandemic. It explained everything. It was the perfect cover, and that's what terrified me most. I let him hold me. I buried my face in his shoulder, so he couldn't see the calculation in my eyes. I needed to see that newspaper article about the accident. I needed to find Vivian's family. I needed the designer of the dress. I'm sorry, I whispered, making my voice small and broken. That I was just so shocked. It hurt. I know. My love. I know. He kissed my hair, his relief palpable. Let's put this behind us. No more secrets. You can ask me anything. Anything at all. All right. Liam. I thought, holding the man who might be a grieving widower or a master manipulator. Let's play. When he left, promising to give me space, I went to my laptop. I found the Queen's Chronicle article again. It was still just a brief, 3-paragraph piece about a missing person. No follow-up, no obituary, nothing about a body found. I opened a new tab and typed into the search bar. My fingers cold on the keys. Vivian Ross hiking accident Catskills, October 2019. The results were a blank wall. No news hits, no memorial pages, Nothing. I then typed, my heart hammering against my ribs, Vivian Ross, wedding dress designer. The first result was a dormant Pinterest board. The second was an archived Instagram account. The username was at vividthreads_designs. The profile picture was a watercolor sketch of a wedding gown. It wasn't my dress. It was a beautiful, flowy, bohemian-style gown with fluttery sleeves and delicate embroidery. The caption on the main image read, the one, my own design for my own day. No one else will ever have this. Hashtag custom gown, hashtag bridal design, hashtag Maiwa Kintawoods. My blood turned to ice. I scrolled down. Another post. A close-up of the intricate embroidery. Hand-stitching my way to forever. Liam says it's perfect. But he has to say that cookies hashtag handmade hashtag labor of love. The dress in the video why dress was a traditional, structured, lace-over satin ball gown. The dress on Vivian's Instagram, her own design, that was a whimsical, ethereal, bohemian piece. They were polar opposites. Liam hadn't saved her dress. He hadn't replicated it as a tribute. He had chosen an entirely different gown, a gown that matched his taste, classic, traditional, and he had made me, and presumably Vivian before me, believe it was our dream dress. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Chloe, he's lying. Check the date on the hiking story. Then Google Hampton's wedding July 2018 Liam Thorne. Don't call me. I stared at the screen. The puzzle pieces weren't fitting together. They were multiplying. I looked from the Instagram of a dress that was never made, to the frozen image on my TV of a dress that shouldn't exist, to the smiling, treacherous face of my fiancé in a video from a past that was closing in on me like a vice. He hadn't just lied about Vivian's death. He had lied about her dress. What else had he lied about? My fingers felt numb on the keyboard. The cursor blinked, a mocking pulse in the silent apartment. Hampton's wedding July 2018 Liam Thorne. I hit enter. The results were a cascade of society pages, glossy magazine blogs, and local newspaper archives. I scrolled, my heart thudding dully against my ribs. Summer weddings in the Hamptons were a dime a dozen for the finance crowd. It could be nothing, a coincidence. Then I saw it, a photograph from the East Hampton Star Social column, a garden wedding at a sprawling estate in Bridgehampton. The bride, a blonde woman in a sleek, minimalist column gown, beamed at the camera, and beside her, his hand possessively on the small of her back, wearing a summer tuxedo and a smile I knew intimately, was Liam. The caption read, Mr. and Mrs. Liam Thorne and their wedding party celebrate at the Ross estate. The bride, the former Cassandra Callie, Ross, is a curator at the Guggenheim. I stopped breathing. Ross. The bride's maiden name was Ross. I clicked frantically. More pictures loaded. Liam dancing with the blonde bride. Liam giving a toast. Looking earnest and charming. Liam standing with an older couple, the bride's parents. Presumably, the article was dated July 21st, 2018, 1 year before Sunset Gorge, 1 year before Vivian. I zoomed in on the bride's face. Cassandra Ross. Callie. She was pretty, polished. Nothing like Vivian. Nothing like me. My mind raced. A frantic, dizzying carousel. Was this a relative? A cousin? But the sickening truth was settling in my gut. The wedding was at the Ross estate. Liam had married into the Ross family a full year before he got engaged to Vivian Ross. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. Cassandra Ross, Liam Thorne. New search. The results were thinner. A few charity galas. A mention in a museum newsletter. Then, a small, somber notice from January 2019. Just 6 months after the wedding. In memoriam, Cassandra Thorne, née Ross. 30, passed away unexpectedly on January 15th. a beloved daughter and a bright light in the art world. Unexpectedly, the same vague, gutless word they'd used for Vivian's disappearance. I sat back, the room spinning. Liam hadn't just been engaged before me. He'd been married, and his wife, a woman with a different face but the same last name as his subsequent fiancé, that had died unexpectedly. 6 months into their marriage, the pieces, grotesque and horrifying, began to snap together. Not a type, a name, a pattern. My phone rang, sharp and insistent in the silence. It was Liam. The sight of his name on the caller ID made bile rise in my throat. I let it go to voicemail. A second later, a text popped up. "Hey, love. Just checking in. I hate how we left things. Can I bring over dinner? We can talk more. I want you to feel safe." Safe. The word was obscenity. I texted Allison. My movements robotic. "Need you. Now, bring your laptop." It's worse. While I waited, I dove back into the digital grave. Vivian's Instagram, at vividthreads_designs, was a treasure trove of quiet despair masked as artistry. I scrolled past the bohemian wedding dress, back through months of posts, pictures of coffee shops, moody cityscapes, sketches, and Liam, always Liam, his arm around her at a concert, his hand holding hers across a restaurant table. The captions grew progressively less effusive over 2019, June 2019. He remembers the little things. Brought me peonies because I had a bad day. #keeper, my favorite flower. A coincidence he'd remembered. He'd said, August 2019, the sunset gorge pictures, radiant joy. September 2019, a sketch of a tangled, thorny vine. Caption, feeling prickly lately. Can't shake this fog. October 10th, 2019, a close-up of a half-empty wine glass. Sometimes the quiet is the loudest sound. Then, the final post on the 15th, the melancholy autumn. The account went dead after that. A key turned in the lock. I jumped. A scream lodged in my throat. It was Allison, her own key in her hand, her face pale. I used my emergency key. "You didn't answer your doorbell." She took one look at me and rushed over, scarlet. "What is it?" I couldn't speak. I just turned my laptop screen toward her, my finger pointing at the wedding photo of Liam and Cassandra Ross. Allison's eyes widened. She scanned the article, then looked at the memoriam notice. Her face lost all its color dough. My God, he was married. Her name was Ross. I whispered. My voice cracked from disuse. Cassandra Ross. He married her in July 2018. She died unexpectedly in January 2019. By August 2019, he was engaged to Vivian Ross at a music festival. I pulled up Vivian's Instagram. Look at her dress. Her real dress. The one she designed. Allison stared at the flowing, bohemian gown, then at the frozen frame from the DV tape on my TV at the structured, traditional ball gown that they're not the same. She breathed. No, they're not. He didn't replicate her dress. He made her wear his dress, the one he wanted, the one he made me wear. The realization was a physical blow that it's not about replacing her. It's about repeating a process with a specific kind of woman, a Ross. But you're not a Ross, Allison said, her mind racing alongside mine. No, but Seeley, it ends with a Y sound. Maybe it was close enough, or maybe he was expanding his criteria. The dress is the constant. The wedding is the constant. The aftermath is the constant. The word aftermath hung in the air, foul and terrifying. Allison grabbed her own laptop, her fingers flying across the keys. Okay, new plan. We're not just looking for one missing woman. We're looking for a pattern. We need to go back further. Before Cassandra, we worked in a feverish silence. The only sounds the tapping of keys and the occasional choked gasp. We searched marriage licenses, society pages, obituaries. We used every database and shady people search site Allison's IT friend had access to. The trail went cold before Cassandra. Liam Thorne appeared to have a clean, if privileged, history, prep school, Ivy League, finance, no other marriages on record. Maybe she was the first, Allison murmured, but she didn't sound convinced. Or maybe the others weren't named Ross. I said, anew, even darker thought forming. Maybe the name is a coincidence with these two. Maybe the link is something else. I rubbed my temples that we need to find someone who knew them. Vivian's family. Friends. The article said her family was private. Devastated. Allison said, reading from the screen, but there's got to be someone. She switched tactics, searching for Vivian's professional contacts. She found a defunct website for her graphic design business, an old LinkedIn profile. The trail was cold, scrubbed clean by Time Dot or by someone. Frustration mounted. We had a monstrous picture, but it was all outlines. No substance. We needed a voice from the past. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Liam. I'm worried about you. Scarlett, please just let me know you're okay. The manipulative concern was a trigger. Anger, sharp and cleansing, cut through my shock. I picked up the phone and typed. My movements deliberate. I need some space. Liam, a few days to process everything about Vivian. It's a lot. His reply was instantaneous. Of course. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. I love you. The perfect, patient fiancé. I wanted to smash the phone. We need to talk to Chloe again. I said, she knows more than she's saying. She knew about the Hamptons' wedding. It's a risk. Allison warned, if Liam suspects she's talking to you. He already knows she gave me the tape. He's already painted her as obsessed. What more can he do? Even as I said it, a chill went through me. What could it do? To Chloe. To me. I texted the unknown number. We need to talk. Now. The Hamptons' wedding. Cassandra. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a reply. Not safe. He's watching. Meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m. The diner on 9th and 44th. Back booth. Come alone. He has your friend watch too, probably. I showed the text to Allison. Her face tightened. He's having us watched. He's a control freak with a secret life. Of course he is. Paranoia. Once a seed. Now flowered into a thick, choking vine. I peered through the blinds of my apartment. The street below was normal. A couple walking a dog. A delivery guy. Any of them could be him. Or someone he'd hired. The next morning, I took a circuitous route to the diner. My hood up. My heart in my throat. The place was a greasy spoon. All cracked vinyl and the smell of stale coffee. Chloe was already in the back booth. Her face drawn. 2 half-empty mugs sat between us. You looked it up, she said without preamble, her voice low. Cassandra Ross. Died 6 months after marrying him. Chloe nodded, stirring her coffee with a grim focus. I found the wedding album when I was snooping, buried under some old textbooks. He kept it. Can you believe that? A trophy. Who was she? Old money. Art world. Sweet. From what I heard. A little naive. The official story was an accidental prescription drug interaction. Ambien and wine. She had a history of insomnia. Chloe's gaze met mine at an autopsy. The family was too grief-stricken. Wanted it all to go away quickly. Sound familiar? And Vivian. Did her family want it to go away too? Chloe's mouth twisted. Vivian's family was different. Middle class. From Ohio. They fought. They pushed the police. But Liam had an ironclad alibi at a business conference in Chicago with 50 witnesses. Vivian had been depressed. They said, talking about needing a fresh start. The police leaned towards voluntary disappearance. Her parents, they eventually moved back to Ohio. Broken. And the dress in the video. I pressed. IT wasn't the one she designed. He made her wear a different one. The one I'm supposed to wear. Chloe's eyes flashed with a dark triumph. Yes, oh, you see it now. The pattern. It's not about the woman. It's about the script, the courtship, the proposal, the dress, the perfect wedding. And then she made a gesture with her hand, a puff of air disappearing. And then what? Chloe. I leaned forward, my voice a desperate whisper. What does he do? If he has alibis, if there's no evidence, I don't know. She hissed, looking around nervously. I've tried to find out. For years. All I have are suspicions and a locked box. My head snapped up. What locked box? In his old bedroom at the Greenwich house. A fireproof lockbox, buried in the back of his closet. The key is on his keychain, shaped like an old-fashioned skeleton key. I tried to pick it once, but I'm not that good. She looked at me, a desperate intensity in her eyes. You need to get into that box. Scarlett, that's where he keeps the souvenirs. The word souvenirs made my stomach lurch. I can't just break into his parents' house. They're in Tuscany for the month. The house is empty. Liam has a key, but he never goes there unless they're in town. She slid a plain key across the sticky table. This is for the garden shed. The window above the sink in the kitchen doesn't lock properly. It's how I used to sneak out and in. I stared at the key as if it were a venomous snake. You want me to break and enter. I want you to save your life. She said, flatly, the wedding is in 2 weeks. After that, you disappear into his world. Your money becomes his money. Your friends become his friends. Your story becomes his story. And then one day, you have a little too much to drink. Or you take a sleeping pill. Or you go for a hike alone. She let the sentence hang. The box. It's the only way to know for sure. Why haven't you gone to the police? With what? She laughed. A bitter, hollow sound on a hunch. A tape of him kissing his missing fiancée. A wedding album. They'd laugh me out of the precinct. He's Liam Thorne. Charismatic. Wealthy. Connected. I'm the unstable, adopted stepsister with a history of petty rebellion. He's already laid the groundwork for me to look crazy. You're the only one who can get close enough now. You're still his perfect, trusting fiancé. I pocketed the key. It felt heavy. Illegal. What's in the box? I think, Chloe said, finishing her coffee and standing up, that it's his portfolio. She dropped a 20 on the table. Don't follow me out. And for God's sake, be careful. I sat in the booth long after she left, the diner's chatter fading into a meaningless buzz. A portfolio, not of financial investments, but of women, their stories, their endings. My phone vibrated. A news alert. I almost ignored it, but the headline caught my eye. Local philanthropist Liam Thorne spearheads new initiative for missing persons families. I clicked it. There was Liam, looking handsome and grave, standing at a podium. The caption read, "Dead investment banker Liam Thorne, drawing from personal tragedy, announces the Vivian Ross Foundation, dedicated to providing resources for families of missing persons." The coffee I'd swallowed turned to acid in my throat. He wasn't just covering his tracks. He was building a monument on top of them, using Vivian's name, her memory, to craft a public image of a grieving, benevolent man. It was genius. It was monstrous. I looked at the shed key in my hand, then at the smiling, philanthropic image of my fiancé on my phone. The confrontation was over. The investigation was just beginning, and I had a break-in to plan. The key Chloe gave me felt like it was branding my palm through my pocket. Liam's Vivian Ross Foundation announcement was a masterstroke of emotional terrorism, plastered across the business section the next morning. Every headline was a fresh gut punch. Grieving fiancé honors lost love with charity. Finance wunderkind turns tragedy into hope. Allison had called me, her voice a tight wire of fury. He's building himself an alibi in plain sight. The bastard. I knew she was right. The perfect, philanthropic narrative was a fortress. To attack him, I needed more than suspicion. I needed a battering ram from inside his own walls. I needed that lockbox. Planning the break-in felt absurdly like planning a wedding. It required logistics, timing, and a profound disregard for my own sanity. I told Liam I was spending the weekend with my mother in Connecticut for final pre-wedding bonding. He sounded relieved, his voice warm with approval that that's a great idea. Sweetheart, some distance will do you good. I'll hold down the fort here. The lie tasted like rust. Saturday morning, under a sky the color of wet concrete, I drove a rental car untraceable to me to Greenwich. The Thorne family home was a sprawling colonial set back from the road behind a screen of manicured hedges and old oaks. It whispered old money and quiet secrets. My heart hammered against my ribs as I parked a quarter-mile down the lane, pulling into a scenic overlook that was empty this early. The garden shed, key, worked smoothly. Inside, smelling of damp earth and fertilizer, I found the window Chloe had described. It was high, small, and stiff, but after a few minutes of sweating and straining, it creaked open. I wriggled through, landing with an ungraceful thud on the polished granite of the utility sink. My dark jeans and black sweater now smudged with grime. The house was a tomb of expensive silence. It smelled of lemon polish, potpourri, and the faint, ghostly scent of Liam's father's pipe tobacco. I moved through the dim rooms, my sneakers silent on the Persian rugs, up the wide staircase, down a hallway lined with staid family portraits. Liam's childhood bedroom was at the end, untouched, a museum to his adolescent perfection, sailing trophies, a framed Harvard acceptance letter, tasteful band posters. The closet was a walk-in, lined with empty shelves and a few forgotten sweaters. In the very back, behind a stack of old yearbooks, was a small, gunmetal gray, fireproof lockbox. Chloe was right. It was unassuming, heavy, and secured by a sturdy-looking keyhole. My fingers traced the cool metal. This was it, the proof, or the final confirmation of my own descent into madness. I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling, and opened the video call to Allison, who was waiting at her apartment, her face a pale moon on my screen. "I'm in," I whispered, the sound deafening in the quiet that I found it. "Okay." Allison's voice came back, a tight, controlled whisper. You have the wax." I pulled out the small lump of red sealing wax I'd taken from Liam's desk and a lighter. Earlier in the week, I'd snuck into his home office while he was showering, my heart in my throat, and pressed the wax against the unique, antique skeleton key on his keychain, creating a perfect, deep impression. It was a trick I'd read about in a spy novel. It felt ridiculous. It had to work. Holding the phone steady so Allison could see, I melted a generous amount of wax over the lockbox's keyhole. Before it could harden completely, I pressed the wax mold firmly into it. Praying for detail, I counted to 30. My breath held. Then, carefully, ever so carefully, peeled the wax away. On my screen, I saw the clear, reverse impression of the key's teeth. "It's good." Allison breathed that I can see it. "Get out of there." Now, I pocketed the wax mold, took one last look at the box and retreated the way I came, wiping down every surface I'd touched with a cloth from the shed. The key was made by a discreet and questionably legal locksmith in Queens, recommended by Allison's IT friend. By Monday, I held a cold, newly cut steel key in my hand. It was my turn to watch Liam. I needed him far from Greenwich for a solid chunk of time. The opportunity came on Wednesday. Liam texted, his tone breezy. "Big dinner tonight with the Japanese investors. Might run late. Don't wait up It was perfect. The dinner was at a renowned, notoriously slow omakase place downtown. It would trap him for hours. This time, I didn't bother with the shed window. I used the spare key Liam kept under a fake rock by the back patio, a fact I'd casually extracted months ago, just in case we get locked out during a visit. The irony was acid sharp. The house felt even emptier at night. I went straight upstairs. The new Kia cold, hard promise in my fist. In the closet, I moved the yearbooks, pulled the lockbox onto the carpet, and knelt before it. The key slid in. It turned with a soft, definitive clunk. I lifted the lid. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Not must or dust, but a faint, floral perfume. Gardenias. My stomach turned. The box wasn't full of mementos in a sentimental sense. It was an archive. Neat. Obsessive. Chilling. On top lay a manila folder labeled Cassandra Ross Thorne. I opened it with numb fingers. Inside was a copy of their marriage certificate, a few society page clippings of the wedding, a lock of fine, blonde hair tied with a silk ribbon, a photograph of her sleeping, taken from what looked like a bedside angle, and a single, typed page. It was a list, with columns. Date, July 21st, 2018. Event, wedding, Bridgehampton. Gown, Vera Wong, Sasha. Column, floral preference, white orchids. Notes, prone to anxiety. Sleep issues, prescribed Ambien. Family, wealth significant, but tied up in trust. Suggested honeymoon location, Santorini. Outcome resolved. January 15th, 2019. Resolved. The word seemed to pulse on the page. I dropped it like it was on fire. Beneath, it was a thicker folder, Vivian Ross. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely open it. Here was the Sunset Gorge ticket stub, a match to the one I'd found. A pressed daisy from the flower crown she wore in the video. A swatch of lace not from her bohemian design, but from Thiebelgown. The one from the video, the one in my closet, and another typed page. Date, August 18th, 2019. Event, engagement, Sunset Gorge Music Festival. Gown, custom, Elysian. Style by Monique Dressmaker. Note, subject initially resistant to design. Preferred own bohemian concept. Convinced of classic elegance. Floral preference, peonies. Notes, independent. Artistic. Suspects financial instability. Family emotionally close, but geographically distant. Primary point of control. Creative approval / undermining. Suggested engagement length, 9 to 12 months. Outcome, discontinued. October 28th, 2019. Discontinued. Like a faulty product line. Not missing. Not deceased. Discontinued. There was a third folder. Elena Rossi. My breath hitched. A new name. Inside, a photo of a beautiful, dark-haired woman with olive skin and a brilliant smile, standing with Liam at what looked like a gallery opening. A receipt from a jeweler for a ring. A brochure for a wedding venue in Napa. And the sheet. Date, May 10th, 2020, projected. Event, wedding, Napa Valley, canceled. Gown, selected data lesion. Style sample. Ordered, but not procured. Floral preference, sunflowers. Notes, met during pandemic lockdown virtual art auction. Strong family ties, Italian. Pandemic complicated isolation protocols. Subject showed increased skepticism after canceled venue visit. Suggested disengagement strategy. Gaslighting commitment phobia. Introduce friction with family. Outcome, voluntarily terminated engagement. June 2020. Recommended no further contact. She got away. Elena Rossi got away. The realization was a lightning bolt of hope and terror. And then, at the very bottom, a fourth folder. It was fresh. The label typed crisply, Scarlet Silly. I couldn't breathe. I opened it. Inside was a picture of me, taken from my own Instagram, from our engagement party. A swatch of fabric from my wedding dress was paper-clipped to a note. That final fitting, May 15th. Monique confirmed delivery. That a copy of our prenuptial agreement, with certain clauses highlighted in yellow. A list of my friends, with notes. Allison Reed, primary confidant, monitor, mother, emotionally dependent, low threat, and the sheet, my sheet, date, June 21st, 2025, target, event, wedding, Ocean Cliff Estate, Newport, gown at Elysian, style, finalized, floral preference, peonies, note, same as V, subject has not made connection, notes, highly capable, independent business owner, greatest strength is self-reliance, can be framed as stubbornness/emotional coldness, primary control point, business/financial destabilization postnuptials, suggest gradual isolation from partner Reed, trust fund accessible upon marriage, suggested outcome timeline, 8 to 14 months post-wedding, outcome, pending, pending. The word swam before my eyes, a clinical, bureaucratic term for my planned demise, my murder, not a crime of passion, but a project with a timeline, a to-do item. I made a choked, animal sound. I fumbled for my phone, still on a video call with Allison. I held the page up to the camera. Allison. I croaked that "Do you see this?" Her face on the screen was a mask of horror dough. My God. Scarlett. It's a blueprint. He has a type. I whispered, the pieces slamming into place with brutal clarity, but it's not a look. It's a profile. Independent, creative, or professional, possibly financially independent or with access to funds. Family ties that can be strained or distanced. And the dress, the Elysian style, it's his signature, his brand. He doesn't want them. He wants the process, the wedding, the control, and then the outcome. We have to call the police, Allison said, her voice shaking. Right now. With what? I said, hysteria bubbling up. These are his private notes. They're sick, but are they proof of a crime? Discontinued. Resolved. He'll say they're breakup notes, grief journals, the hair, the lace. He'll say he's sentimental. The police will look at him, the philanthropic, grieving fiancé, and they'll look at me, the hysterical bride with cold feet, and they'll believe him. We need more. We need to find them. I took photos of everything, every page, every item, with my phone. The process was mechanical, driven by a terror so deep it felt like calm. I placed everything back in its precise order, closed the box, locked it. As I slid the box back into its hiding place, my fingers brushed against something else tucked behind it, a small, velvet jeweler's box. Not the kind for an engagement ring. Smaller. I opened it. Inside, on a bed of white satin, lay 2 delicate, pearl earrings. They weren't mine. I took a picture, slipped the box into my pocket. A tangible piece of evidence that wasn't a document. A trophy. I was out of the house in under 10 minutes. The ghosts of Cassandra, Vivian, and Elena screaming in my head. Back in the rental car, I called Chloe. She answered on the first ring. Did you get it? Her voice was tight with fear. I got it, I said. My voice flat. Dead. It's worse than you thought. There were others. One before Vivian. One after. He has files. Like a project manager. A sharp intake of breath on the other end. Cassandra. I knew about her. Not the other. Elena Rossi. She got away. She broke off the engagement in 2020. A new thought, desperate and urgent, seized me, Chloe. I need to find her. She's the only one who left alive. She might know something. She might have proof. How? He scrubs them from his life. It's what he does. He's meticulous. I said, pulling out onto the dark road. My mind racing faster than the car, but he's also arrogant. He kept those files. He keeps trophies. He might have kept something on her. Something he couldn't bear to part with, even though she got away. Do you remember anything from around that time? Mid-2020. Any trips? Any strange behavior? Silence for a moment. Then, he went to California. Napa. Said it was a wine tasting trip with clients. He was gone for a week. He came back. Quiet. Not sad. Angry. He smashed a crystal decanter in the study. I heard him arguing on the phone with someone. He kept saying, "You're making a mistake. You'll regret this." I thought it was business. Napa. The wedding venue for Elena. He'd gone after her. I need a name. Chloe. Something more. Check his old phone. The one in his desk drawer at the apartment. The silver one. He thinks it's dead, but I saw him charging it once. About a year ago. He might not have wiped it. When I got back to my apartment, the weight of the night pressed down on me. Liam wasn't home yet. The dinner, no doubt, was still going. I went straight to his study, a room I rarely entered. It was his sanctum, all dark wood and leather. The bottom drawer of his desk was locked, but the lock was flimsy, meant for privacy, not security. A strong yelp with a letter opener popped it open. Inside, among old passports and stock certificates, was a silver smartphone, an older model. I pressed the power button. The screen remained black. I found a compatible charger, plugged it in, and waited, my pulse thrumming. After an agonizing minute, the Apple logo appeared. The phone booted up. No passcode. My hands were slick with sweat. I went to his contacts, scrolled. Hundreds of names. I searched Elena. Nothing. Rossi, nothing. I checked his photos. Most were synced from his old iCloud. Pictures of sunsets. Business dinners. I went to his text messages. The history only went back a few months from when he'd stopped using it. I was about to give up when I saw it. A thread with an unsaved number. The last message was from June 2020. Liam, this is a mistake. Elena, we're perfect together. Call me. Unknown number. Do not contact me again. I've spoken to the woman from the gallery. I know what you did. I'm keeping the ring as insurance. Stay away from me and my family. My blood ran cold. The woman from the gallery, what had he done? I clicked on the number with a trembling finger. I hit .call. It rang once, twice. A female voice answered. Wary, hello, Elena Rossi. I breathed. A long pause. Who is this? My name is Scarlett Seeley. I'm engaged to Liam Thorne. The silence on the other end was absolute. Then a sharp, horrified inhale. Oh, no. Oh, my God. No. I found your name. In his things. I need to talk to you. Please. He has a file on me. It says pending. Elena's voice, when it came, was low and thick with an old, familiar terror. Where are you? New York. I'm in Santa Barbara. Listen to me. Get out. Now. Don't marry him. Don't even say goodbye. Just disappear. What did he do? What happened with the woman from the gallery? She let out a shaky breath. Her name was Jasmine. She worked at a gallery where we met. She saw him. She saw him switching my birth control pills. She tried to warn me. He told me she was a jealous co-worker, that she was making advances toward him. I didn't believe her. Not until later, when other things didn't add up. When I confronted him, he had an answer for everything. But Jasmine, she disappeared, quit her job, vanished. The police said she moved back to Ohio. No forwarding address. Her voice broke that I kept the ring. I never sold it. I have it in a safe deposit box. I thought, if anything ever happened to me, my sister has instructions to take it to the police. It's my insurance policy. He came to Napa. After you left, he stalked me for 3 months. Calls, emails, showed up at my parents' house. I had to get a restraining order. It was the only thing that made him stop. He's like a snake. Scarlett, he doesn't get angry. He just waits. And he always has a plan. She took a shuddering breath. The dress. Did he pick it? A big, traditional ball gown. Lots of lace. Yes, I whispered, tears finally spilling over, the Elysian style. He tried to make me wear that. I wanted something simple, modern. He wore me down for months. It was our biggest fight. That, and the peonies. I hate peonies. He insisted. Her voice hardened. You have to run. He doesn't love you. He doesn't even see you. He sees a project. And when the project is over, I know, I said, the full, horrifying truth settling into my bones. Liam Thorne wasn't just a liar or a manipulator. He was a predator with a wedding planner's checklist. And I was his current event, barreling toward a pending outcome. Thank you, Elena, I said softly. Don't thank me. Just survive. The line went dead. I sat in the dark study, the old phone glowing in my hand. I had my witness, a living one, and I had the files, the trophies, the blueprint for my own destruction. Running was the smart play, disappearing into the night. But as I looked at the photo of myself in Liam's folder, at the word .pending, typed so coldly beside my name, a different kind of fire ignited in my chest. Fury, cold and clear. He had planned my end with the detachment of a spreadsheet. Two could play that game. I wasn't going to run. I was going to make sure his next outcome was a very, very public failure. The wedding was in 10 days. It was time to start planning my own event. Hanging up with Elena, Rossi felt like surfacing from a dive into Arctic waters. Gasping, disoriented, and chilled to the bone. Her terror was a living thing, transmitted across the miles. He stalks. He plans. He waits. I heard the key in the front door. Liam. Panic. Sharp and immediate. Shot through me. The old phone. I yanked the charger, shoved the device back into the desk drawer, and slammed it shut just as the lock clicked. There was no time to relock it. I flew out of the study, closing the door softly behind me, and skidded into the kitchen, grabbing a glass from the cabinet as his footsteps sounded in the foyer. Scarlett, you're still up. He stood in the kitchen doorway, loosening his tie. He looked tired, handsome, normal. The monster from the lockbox was nowhere in sight. His gaze swept over me, missing nothing, everything okay. You look flushed, just couldn't sleep, I said, turning to the sink to fill my glass, hiding my face. My mind raced. The desk drawer. Would he notice? How was the dinner? Long, productive. He came up behind me, his hands settling on my shoulders. I forced myself not to flinch. His touch felt like a contamination that I missed you. He kissed the top of my head, his breath smelling faintly of sake and mint. Have you been in my study? I thought I smelled your perfume in there. The question was casual, a trap. My heart hammered against my ribs. He notices everything. I was looking for a pen earlier. I lied. My voice impressively steady. Mine ran out while I was addressing envelopes. Sorry, I probably left a mess. No problem at all. He murmured, his thumbs rubbing circles on my tense muscles. It's your home too. You can go anywhere you like. The words were generous. The subtext was a warning. I know where you go. I turned, offering him a small. Weary smiled. I think I'll try to get some sleep. Big day with the florist tomorrow. Of course. He cupped my face, his eyes searching mine. That analytical, assessing look was back, you know. Since we talked about Vivian, you seem lighter. I'm glad we cleared the air. Lighter, because I was planning his destruction. Me too. I whispered. I escaped to the bedroom, my skin crawling. I waited until I heard the shower running, then texted Allison from under the covers. My phone brightness on minimum. He's suspicious. Asked about the study. I have Elena Rossi's contact. She confirmed everything. More. He sabotaged birth control. A witness vanished. He stalked her after she left. Allison's reply was instant. Jesus, we need to move. The wedding is in 10 days. What's the play? We don't cancel. We use it. I typed. The plan crystallizing with cold. Brutal clarity. It's his stage. We turn it against him. We need the files, the photos, the tape, Elena's testimony. We need to get it all in front of everyone he knows, everyone he's trying to impress. At the moment, he thinks he's won. That's insane. He'll have control of everything. The venue, the vendors, the timeline. He controls the wedding. I control the event. A grim smile touched my lips. I was an event planner. This was just another production, the most important one in my life. We need a technical director, someone who can handle audio/visual, live feeds, remotely, someone we can trust, absolutely. My cousin, Ben, Allison replied after a moment. He's a freelance AV tech for concerts. He's discreet. He hates bullies. And he owes me a huge favor. He also looks like he could bench press Liam. Perfect. Set up a meet. Off-grid. Tomorrow. The next 48 hours were masterclass in deception. I attended floral consultations with Liam, nodding as he got surprised. Me with his insistence on peonies, they're just so classic. Darling. And you said you loved them. Remember, the lie was so smooth. I had mentioned liking them once. 3 years ago. You're right. I said, beaming at him, that they're perfect. Just like you wanted for Vivian. I met Allison and her cousin Ben in the back room of a noisy, nondescript sports bar in Astoria. Ben was a mountain of a man with a kind face and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. I laid it out for him, the lockbox photos, the DV tape, the testimony. He listened, his expression growing graver by the minute. When I finished, he let out a low whistle. Oh, you want me to hijack the wedding AV system and play a horror movie starring the groom? Essentially, I said, ATA specific cue, and I need it bomb-proof. He might have someone watching the tech booth. I can set up a secondary, wireless feed, Ben said, pulling out a tablet and sketching a diagram, run it off a hotspot. I'll be in the van. All I need is access to the venue's network the day before to patch in, and a tiny receiver hidden, say, in the floral arrangement on the speaker's podium. You trigger it. I blast it. He can't stop it without smashing the flowers in front of everyone. It was elegant. Can you also record everything? The ceremony, his reaction, already planning on it, multiple angles. He looked at me. This is nuclear. You know, there's no coming back from this. There's no coming back from what he has planned for me either. I said quietly. The next hurdle was evidence gathering. I needed everything digitized, organized, and in multiple secure locations. I also needed to protect myself physically. Liam was a planner, not a brawler, but a cornered animal is dangerous. Allison took the lockbox photos and the tape to her IT friend for forensic backup and enhancement. I, meanwhile, visited a small, private defense studio in Brooklyn, telling the instructor I was a bride-to-be with a stalker ex and wanted to feel safe. I learned 2 things, how to break a thumb grip, and where to strike with my keys to disable someone long enough to run. I practiced until my hands were bruised. Through it all, I played my part for Liam. I was contrite about my overreaction to the Vivian tape, more affectionate, even initiating intimacy once, shutting my eyes and thinking of Elena's warning to get through it. He seemed to relax, the watchful tension in his shoulders easing. I was back in the box, marked .compliant, for days before the wedding. He came home elated. I closed the Nakajima deal. It's huge. The bonus alone. He swept me into a hug. Our future just got even brighter. Mrs. Thorne. Our future point 8 to 14 months. According to my file. That's amazing. Liam. I gushed, pouring him a scotch that we should celebrate. A quiet dinner in. I'll cook. You're perfect, he said, taking the glass, his eyes soft. In that moment, I saw the ghost of the man I'd fallen for, the attentive, ambitious, charming partner. It was a haunting reminder that the monster and the man were the same person. The mask wasn't a mask, it was a facet of the whole. Over salmon and asparagus. He made his move. You know, he said, sipping his wine with this deal closed. I've been thinking about your event planning business. My fork still though. It's so much stress. Darling, the late nights, the demanding clients. Once we're married, there's no need. We could travel. You could focus on the foundation work. The Vivian Ross Foundation needs a compassionate heart like yours at its helm. Or you could just relax. Enjoy life. He reached across the table. Taking my hand, did I want to take care of you? Scarlett, fully. Primary control point. Business/financial destabilization post-nuptials. Step, one of the dot pending. Outcome was right on schedule. I squeezed his hand, making my eyes shine with touched emotion. That's so sweet. Liam, and you're right. It is stressful. Maybe, after the wedding, we can talk about scaling back. Let me just get through these next few events I'm committed to. His smile was beatific. Of course. No rush. He'd planted the seed. He was patient. Later that night, as he slept, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The game was escalating. I needed to check on my insurance policy. The next morning, I told Liam I had a final, secret, bridal wellness, appointment at a massage and facial. Instead, I went to a UPS store and rented a small mailbox under a pseudonym. I printed every damning piece of evidence, the lockbox file photos, Elena's contact info, and a summary of our call. Screenshots of Vivian's Instagram. The Hampton Star article, and mailed it in a thick envelope to Allison's mother in Florida, with instructions to open it only if she didn't hear from Allison or me every 48 hours after the wedding. I then mailed a second copy to my own lawyer, with a detailed, notarized letter outlining my suspicions and naming Liam Thorne as a potential threat. As I left the UPS store, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Ohio, it's Vivian's mother. A woman named Chloe contacted me. She said you might call. My daughter is not a hiking accident. Call me if you need to. Carol Ross. My eyes filled with hot tears. Chloe. She was working her own angles, reaching out to the ghosts. I saved the number. Another voice for the chorus. 3 days before the wedding, we moved into the Ocean Cliff estate in Newport for the pre-wedding festivities. The place was a Gilded Age nightmare of opulence, all marble and ocean views. My bridal suite was larger than my entire apartment. The rehearsal dinner was that evening. It was a surreal experience. Smiling at Liam's colleagues, his smugly proud parents, my own worried but oblivious mother. Liam was in his element, the magnanimous host. He gave a touching toast about finding love after loss, subtly referencing Vivian to bolster his saintly image. People dabbed their eyes. I kept my smile plastered on. After dinner, as guests mingled with cocktails on the terrace, Liam found me by the stone balustrade, overlooking the moonlit Atlantic. Almost there, he murmured, slipping an arm around my waist, pulling me back against him. His lips were at my ear. Tomorrow, you become mine, forever. The possessiveness in his tone was no longer charming. It was a claim staking. I shivered, and he mistook it for passion, tightening his grip. I have a surprise for you, he said, a wedding gift. He led me inside, away from the crowd, to a small, private sitting room. On a velvet cushion on a side table lay a stunning antique diamond bracelet. Art Deco, glittering under the lights. It was exquisitely, heart-stoppingly beautiful. and it was familiar. My mind flashed to the photos in the lockbox, to a picture of Vivian, dressed for a gala, wearing a bracelet that caught the light in a very similar way. Liam, it's incredible. I breathed, my blood turning to ice. It belonged to my grandmother, he said, fastening it around my wrist. His fingers were deft. The metal was cold. I had it reset for you. A family heirloom for my new wife. He kissed my wrist, just above the glittering stones. Wear it tomorrow. For luck. I looked at the bracelet, then at his proud, smiling face. He was giving me a dead woman's jewels. A trophy. Recycled. Was it Vivian's? Cassandra's? It didn't matter. It was a brand. I'll treasure it. I whispered, back in my suite. I finally broke. I sank to the floor of the lavish bathroom, the diamonds cutting into my clenched fist, and cried silent, heaving sobs of terror and fury. This was it, the final act of his script. My phone buzzed. Allison, Ben is in. He's patched into the venue system. Receiver is in the peony arrangement on the left side of the arch. All you have to do is press the stem. It's live. The files are loaded. Elena is on standby for a recorded statement if we need it. We're ready. I wiped my face, smearing mascara. I looked at my reflection in the gold-framed mirror de pale. Wide-eyed woman in a white silk robe, a fortune in cursed diamonds on her wrist. I wasn't ready, but I had to be. The day of my wedding dawned, clear and bright, a cruel parody of perfection. Hair and makeup artists descended, turning me into the flawless bride. The dress was laced onto me, the heirloom veil fastened. I looked in the full-length mirror. The vision was complete. The dot Elysian. Style. The peonies in my hair. The diamond bracelet. I was the perfect final bride in Liam Thorne's collection. My mother cried. Allison, my maid of honor, helped adjust my train, her eyes meeting mine in the mirror, a silent message of solidarity and fear. There was a knock on the suite door. A hotel attendant handed me a small, plain envelope for the bride, just now delivered. Inside was a single, typewritten line on plain paper. Break a leg today. Scarlett, the whole world is watching. A friend, Chloe, or Ben, or someone else. It didn't matter. The message was clear. The stage was set. The ceremony was at 4 p.m. At 3:50, I stood at the top of the grand staircase, my hand on my father's arm. The string quartet below began Pachelbel's canon. The doors to the garden terrace swung open. 200 guests stood, turning to look. And there, at the end of the flower-lined aisle, under an arch drowning in white peonies, stood Liam. He looked like a fairy tale prince in his morning suit, his expression one of awed, triumphant love. My father patted my hand, ready. Sweetheart, I took a deep breath, my fingers brushing over the thick stem of a peony wired into my bouquet. The receiver is in the peony arrangement on the left side of the arch. Ready, I said. I began my walk, towards my groom, towards the man who had resolved. Cassandra discontinued Vivian, and had me marked as pending. I smiled. It was time to rewrite the ending. The walk down the aisle was a slow-motion nightmare. Each step on the petal-strewn runner felt like wading through tar. The faces of the guests blurred into a watercolor smear of smiles and tears. The only thing in sharp focus was Liam at the end of the aisle, his expression a masterpiece of tender expectation. The string quartet swelled, a soundtrack to my execution. My father's arm was a dead weight under my hand. He squeezed, misty-eyed that he's a lucky man. Sweetie, he whispered, his voice thick. He's a murderer. I thought, but my smile never wavered. It felt carved into my face. I kept my gaze locked on Liam's. A trick I'd learned from him, the appearance of total focus. My fingers, slick inside my satin gloves, clutched the heavy bouquet of peonies and gardenias, nestled deep within the blooms. My thumb rested on a specific, reinforced stem. It felt no different from the others, just a cool, firm length of floral wire. Ben's hidden receiver, my detonator. My eyes flickered past Liam's shoulder to the cascading floral arrangement on the left side of the marble archway. A waterfall of white peonies, just as he'd insisted. My stomach clenched. That's where Ben's signal feeds in. Just press and hold. I reached the altar. My father kissed my cheek, a dry peck that felt like a goodbye, and placed my hand in Liam's. His grip was warm, possessive. Sure, he leaned in, his breath a soft caress against my veil. You are a vision, he murmured, his voice thick with what anyone else would mistake for love. I saw the flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. The curator finally unveiling his completed piece. The officiant, a jovial family friend named Reverend Michaels, beamed at us, dearly beloved. He began, his voice carrying over the gentle rustle of the ocean breeze. The ceremony was a beautiful, hollow drone. I recited my vows on autopilot, my voice clear and steady. Liam's gaze never left mine, his own vows delivered with a heart-wrenching sincerity that made several guests audibly sniffle. He slid the ring, a flawless, cold circle of platinum, onto my finger. It felt like a shackle. And now, Reverend Michaels said, his smile reaching his eyes, if anyone present knows of any reason why this man and this woman should not be joined in holy matrimony, let them speak now, or forever hold their peace. A beat of perfect, romantic silence. This was the moment. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I could press the stem now, unleash the chaos, but before I could move, a voice cut through the quiet. I do. All heads, including mine and Liam's, snapped to the side. Chloe stood up from a chair in the very back row, her black dress a slash of ink against the pastel sea of guests. A ripple of confusion went through the crowd. Liam's grip on my hand tightened, his face a mask of pained concern. Chloe, sweetheart, he said, his voice low but projected, dripping with brotherly patience. Not now. This isn't the place. Oh, I think it's exactly the place. Brother, Chloe said, her voice ringing out, clear and cold. She began walking up the side aisle, ignoring the gasps, because I know a reason. Several. In fact, Liam's jaw tightened. I saw the calculation in his eyes, the quick shift from concern to damage control. He gave a small, regretful sigh for the audience that I'm so sorry. Everyone, my stepsister has been struggling. She's had a difficult time since our father passed. Please, Chloe, let's talk about this privately. He made a subtle gesture to a burly cousin on the groom's side, who started to stand. The only thing I'm struggling with, Chloe retorted, stopping a few yards from the altar, I ask my conscience, and watching you do this to another woman. She turned to face the guests. He's done it before. You know, his last fiancée, Vivian Ross. She disappeared. The one before that, his wife, Cassandra Ross Thorne. She died, unexpectedly. A shocked murmur erupted. Liam's parents looked horrified. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Liam's face was a study in wounded dignity. Chloe, that's enough. Those were tragedies. You're exploiting our family's pain. He turned to the guests, his eyes glistening. Why stepsister has had feelings for me for a long time. Unreciprocated feelings. I've tried to help her, but her obsession has taken a dark turn. I'm so sorry she's chosen to do this today. The tide of sympathy, visibly, swung back to him. Obsessed stepsister, scorned woman. It was a classic, believable narrative. Chloe, for all her bravery, was playing right into his hands. She was the unstable one, disrupting the perfect day. It's not an obsession, Liam. It's evidence. Chloe shot back, but she sounded younger, less certain against his polished performance. This was my cue. The distraction was perfect. While all eyes were on their confrontation, I subtly angled my bouquet and pressed my thumb firmly into the reinforced stem. I held it for a 3 count, then released. Nothing happened. A cold wave of panic washed over me. No, 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 the system had failed. Ben was blocked. Liam had countermeasures I hadn't anticipated. Liam saw my minute flinch, my glance toward the flowers. His eyes narrowed the tiniest fraction. A predator sensing a shift in the wind. This is painful for everyone, Liam said, his voice taking on a commanding, gentle tone. Perhaps we should take a brief recess. Scarlett, darling. He reached for my arm, his intent clear, to remove me, to shut this down in private. Then, a hum, a flicker, the large, ornate monitor discreetly positioned to the side of the terrace meant to display a loving slideshow of our couple photos for the back rows sizzled to life. But instead of pictures of us on a beach, it showed a high-resolution, scanned image. It was the first page of Liam's file on Cassandra Ross-Thorne. The heading was crystal clear. The columns for that event, gown, notes, were visible. And at the bottom, the word, .resolved. In stark, typed letters. The collective gasp from the audience was a physical thing. Liam froze, his hand halfway to my elbow, his head swiveling toward the screen. The color drained from his face, leaving a waxy, bloodless mask. What is this? Reverend Michaels sputtered. What is the meaning of this? Before Liam could form a lie, the image changed. Now it was Vivian Ross. The dot discontinued. Label burned into the screen. Then Elena Rossi voluntarily terminated engagement. And finally, Scarlett Silly, my own engagement photo, the details of my wedding, my floral preference, peonies, and at the bottom, the chilling, clinical verdict, outcome, pending. The terrace erupted in chaos. People were on their feet, shouting, pointing. Liam's mother let out a small, sharp cry. My father surged forward, his face a storm of confusion and dawning rage. Liam's mask finally, completely shattered, the benevolent grief, the brotherly concern, the loving fiancé, all gone, replaced by a feral, cornered rage. He lunged not for me, but toward the monitor, as if he could physically tear the images down. This is a forgery, a sick lie. Someone shut that off. His best man, Mark, moved toward the AV booth, but 2 burly venue staff members, friends of Ben's, I realized, stepped in his way. Arms crossed. On the screen, the files dissolved, replaced by the grainy, sun-drenched video from Sunset Gorge. There was Liam, younger, laughing. There was Vivian, in my wedding dress, being spun in his arms. The audio crackled to life, tinny but clear. To my forever, he shouted over the music, pulling her in for a deep, passionate kiss. The juxtaposition was devastating. The man in the morning suit, rigid with fury, and his younger, identical self pledging forever to another woman in the same gown. That's not me, Liam roared, spinning to face the crowd, his finger jabbing at the screen that it's a fake, deep fake technology. This is a malicious, coordinated attack. Then explain the bracelet. Liam, my voice, amplified by the hidden microphone Ben had sewn into my dress, cut through the din. I hadn't realized I had spoken. Everyone turned to me. I held up my wrist, the antique diamonds catching the afternoon sun, throwing brilliant, accusing shards of light. This heirloom you gave me last night, I said, my voice remarkably steady, the one that belonged to your grandmother. Would you like to tell everyone which of your former fiancés were it first? Was it Cassandra or Vivian? His eyes locked on the bracelet, then on me. The hatred in his gaze was pure and undiluted. It was the look from the lockbox. The look of a collector whose prize was malfunctioning. You. He breathed, the word barely audible, but dripping with venom. You scheming. Paranoid little. The police are on their way. Liam. Allison's voice, clear and strong, came from behind me. She stepped forward, holding her phone aloft. I just got off the phone with the Newport PD. They're very interested in the files we just shared with them, and in a statement from a woman named Elena Rossi, who has a restraining order against you, and in a phone call with Carol Ross, Vivian's mother, who is currently on a plane here to discuss her daughter's hiking accident. The mention of the police was the final blow. The genteel facade of the Thorne family and their guests crumbled completely. Shouts of disbelief, cries of horror, the scrape of chairs as people backed away from the groom's side of the aisle. Liam's father was trying to get to his son, his face purple with rage and shame. His mother had collapsed into her seat, sobbing. Liam stood isolated in the center of the storm, his chest heaving. He looked from the damning screen to my face, to the screaming crowd. I saw the moment his mind shifted from defense to offense, from explanation to escape. His eyes darted toward the side exit, a servant's passage that led back into the hotel. Don't even think about it. A low voice said. Ben had emerged from the crowd, his massive frame blocking the path. He wasn't in a tux. He wore a dark utility vest, a wireless headset curled around his neck. He looked exactly like what he was, security. Liam's gaze swept the terrace, landing on me one last time. The rage was gone, replaced by something colder, more terrifying, a pure, analytical assessment. He knew he was caught, for now, but the look promised this wasn't over. You have no idea what you've done, he said to me, his voice a low, intimate snarl meant only for my ears. You've ruined everything. No, Liam, I said, pulling the heavy diamond bracelet from my wrist. It felt like lifting a curse. You did that all by yourself. I let it drop. It landed on the stone terrace with a sharp, final clink. In the distance, the faint wail of sirens began to sound, cutting through the chaos of the garden. They were coming for him. The perfect wedding was over. The real event had just begun. The sirens weren't faint for long. They swelled into a deafening crescendo, cutting through the panicked babble on the terrace like a blade. The blue and red flashes painted the stunned, pale faces of the guests in garish, alternating colors. This wasn't the elegant exit Liam had planned. He didn't run. He stood his ground, but the posture was all wrong. The commanding presence had shrunk into a defensive coil, his eyes, darting from the approaching police uniforms to my face, held no more pleading or rage, just a cold, calculating assessment of the damage. I'd seen that look before, in his study, reviewing a problematic contract. I was now the problematic contract. 2 uniformed officers and a detective in a rumpled suit pushed through the gaping crowd. The detective, a weary-looking man with sharp eyes named Inspector Russo, went straight for the source of the chaos, the monitor, which Ben had wisely frozen on the outcome, penning page with my photo. Who's in charge of this display? Russo asked, his voice dry and carrying. I am, Ben said, stepping forward, his size alone commanding a certain authority. I have all the source files, backup drives, and a witness on standby, ready to provide a sworn statement remotely. The evidence was triggered by the bride under imminent concern for her safety. Russo's gaze swept over me in my wedding dress, then to Liam in his mourning suit. Liam Thorne, you're making a terrible mistake, Liam said, his voice finding its smooth, convincing tenor again, though it was strained at the edges. This is a private matter, a malicious fabrication by a jealous family member, and a confused fiancé with pre-wedding nerves. I'll have my lawyer. Mr. Thorne. Russo interrupted. not unkindly but with a firm finality. We've received a substantial digital package, along with a notarized statement from a Scarlet Sealy and a live testimony request from an Elena Rossi in California. We also have a missing persons file on Vivian Ross that's been cold for years. We need you to come down to the station to answer some questions. It's Mrs. Thorne. Liam corrected automatically. The words a hollow, desperate grasp at normalcy. We were just married. He looked at me, as if expecting me to confirm it, to recant, to play my part one last time. All eyes turned to me. The room held its breath. My mother was crying silently, held up by my father, whose face was granite. Allison stood beside me, a solid, furious presence. I reached up, my fingers finding the pins holding the heirloom veil in place. I pulled them out, one by one, letting the delicate lace slip from my hair and pool on the ground at my feet. The gesture was small, but in the silent tension, it was deafening. The ceremony wasn't completed. I said, my voice clear and carrying in the sudden quiet, I do not consent to this marriage, and I have evidence that his consent was based on fraud and concealed homicidal intent. The legal term felt heavy and strange on my tongue, but it was the truth. Liam flinched as if struck. Homicidal intent that I had named the unnameable. Inspector Russo gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Mr. Thorne, please come with us. Liam's father finally broke through, his face mottled with fury. This is an outrage. You can't do this. Do you know who I am? Who our lawyer is? We do, sir, Russo said, unmoved, and he can meet us at the station. He gestured to the uniforms, who stepped forward, not touching Liam yet, but their intention clear. Liam looked at his father, at his weeping mother, at the sea of horrified faces that had come to celebrate him. I saw the final layer of the performance fall away. The charming veneer was gone, stripped bare by the flashing lights and the cold reality of handcuffs that one officer now held loosely. What was left wasn't the monster I feared, but something smaller, emptier, a man whose entire life's work, that a perverse, terrifying oeuvre that had just been publicly invalidated. He went quietly, no more speeches, as he passed me, surrounded by the officers. He didn't look at me. He looked straight ahead, his jaw clenched, a man already building his next offense, calculating his next move. The game wasn't over for him. It had just entered a new phase. The moment he disappeared into the hotel, the terrace exploded into sound again that shocked conversations. Sobs, the frantic clicks of smartphones as guests, too stunned for decorum, captured the scene. News traveled at the speed of light. I could see the headlines already. Allison put a steadying arm around my shoulders. It's done. Scarlett, you did it. But it wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The next 48 hours were a blur of sterile rooms and harsh lighting. The Newport police station. Then an interview room with two detectives from New York who'd been handed the jurisdictional hot potato of a lifetime. I told my story. Again and again. I showed them the digital copies of the files. I gave them Elena Rossi's contact. They listened with poker faces, but I saw the flicker in their eyes when I described the lockbox, the resolved and discontinued labels. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Claudia Hayes, was a wall of calm competence. They're treating you as a victim and a witness, which is good. But Liam has retained Benjamin Roth, she told me, her mouth a thin line. He's a shark. He'll go after your credibility, the legality of the break-in, Chloe's mental state. He'll paint this as an elaborate hoax by a jealous woman and her unstable accomplice. Let him try, I said, my voice flat. The adrenaline had burned away, leaving a cold, hard ash of resolve. The evidence is digital. It's time-stamped. It's corroborated. He can't explain away Vivian's disappearance or Cassandra's death. Not anymore. The media frenzy was immediate and brutal. Socialite grooms wedding day arrest. Fiancé unmasks alleged serial predator. The footage of the ceremony's disruption, captured on dozens of phones, went viral. My face, pale and determined in the wedding dress, was everywhere. So was Liam's, twisting from groom to suspect in a matter of seconds. I gave one press statement, drafted by Claudia and delivered on the steps of the precinct. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I stood there, out of the wedding gown, but still bearing its ghost, and stated facts. Liam Thorne engaged in a systematic pattern of deception, emotional manipulation, and coercion against multiple women, including myself. I have provided law enforcement with evidence suggesting his involvement in the disappearance of Vivian Ross and the death of Cassandra Thorne. My only goal is justice for them, and to ensure he never has the opportunity to do this again. It was enough. The story had its own momentum now. 3 days after the wedding, that wasn't. I was back in my apartment, which felt both familiar and alien. The silence was oppressive. Every corner held a memory of Liam, of the lie I'd lived. I was packing a suitcase, unsure where I was going, just knowing I had to leave. When the intercom buzzed, it was Chloe. She looked even more exhausted, but there was a new light in her eyes that a grim, exhausted vindication. She held a paper grocery bag. I brought you something, she said, thrusting the bag at me. Inside were my favorite sourdough bread from the bakery down the street, a wedge of strong cheese, and a bottle of good, non-wedding related Pinot Noir. You probably haven't eaten. We sat at my kitchen island, the food between us. The silence wasn't comfortable, but it was real. They're reopening Vivian's case, she said finally, breaking off a piece of bread. The New York detectives contacted her parents. They're coming back east. They want to meet you. The thought filled me with a profound sense of dread and duty. Okay. And she hesitated. They found something. In a storage unit rented under a shell company linked to Liam's firm. More boxes, clothes, jewelry, diaries, Vivian's, Cassandra's, trophies, a colder, more extensive archive. My stomach turned. Did they find? No bodies. Chloe said quickly, reading my look. Not yet, but it's enough. It's more than enough for a case. The DA is talking about charges. Fraud, coercion, stalking, maybe more, depending on what the diaries say and what the forensics on the jewelry show. We ate in silence for a minute. The bread tasted like dust, but I forced it down. What happens now? I asked, not just about the case. Chloe shrugged. For him, a long, ugly legal fight. For you. She looked at me. You get to live. For real this time. A week later, I met Carol and Robert Ross in a quiet conference room at Claudia's law office. They were in their late 50s, dressed with a quiet, frayed dignity. Carol's eyes, the same shape as Vivian's, held a bottomless grief. When she saw me, she let out a soft cry and hugged me, holding on tight. Thank you, she whispered, over and over. Thank you for not letting her be forgotten. We talked for hours. I showed them the video of Vivian at Sunset Gorge, laughing in the dress. Carol wept, but she also smiled. She loved him so much, she said, her voice breaking. We never understood. We thought she was just lost. Robert, a quiet man, placed a worn leather journal on the table. The police returned this from the storage unit. It's her sketchbook, the last pages. He opened it to the back. The sketches were dark, chaotic, thorny vines, cages, a figure with a handsome, featureless face. On the final page, scrawled in angry charcoal, were the words, "He is not what he seems. Get out." I had to look away. The confirmation was a physical pain. We want you to know, Carol said, taking my hand. Her grip, surprisingly strong. That whatever comes next, we see you as family. You're the one who brought her voice back. It was both a gift and a burden I hadn't expected. The months that followed were a slow, grinding crawl through the legal system and my own recovery. Liam was indicted on multiple counts of fraud, coercion, perjury, and tampering with evidence. The investigation into Cassandra's death was officially reopened as a potential homicide. Vivian's case was now a top priority missing persons investigation with a named person of interest. The media circus continued, but I learned to tune it out. I sold my event planning business to Allison, who had stood by me unflinchingly. With the proceeds and a quiet settlement from the Thorne family, an offer made purely to avoid further civil liability. My lawyer assured me that I bought a small, sun-filled studio apartment in a different part of the city. It had no memories. One afternoon, as autumn leaves blew past my new windows, I finally faced the last box I'd brought from my old life. In it, carefully folded, was the wedding dress, the Elysian style. It looked like a costume now, a relic from a play I'd narrowly escaped. I didn't burn it. That felt too dramatic, too much like giving it power. Instead, I packed it in a sturdy box. I included a copy of the lockbox file on me, the one marked pending. I wrote a short letter and placed it on top. This was intended to be my shroud. It is a symbol of a pattern of control and predation. Please use it, if you can, to help others recognize the signs before it's too late. I addressed the box to a nonprofit organization that provided support and legal aid to victims of coercive control and intimate partner violence. I didn't put a return address. As I left the post office, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number with a 440 area code. Ohio. It's Carol. They're digging in the woods near the old family property in the Catskills. The place, he said, they hiked. They found something. I'll call you tonight. My breath caught. Justice, it seemed, was a slow, earthbound thing, but it was moving. Later that evening, another message came through. This one was from an unfamiliar 310 number. Los Angeles. Scarlett, it's Elena. I saw the news about the indictments. I just wanted to say, thank you for having the courage I wish I'd had sooner. I'm sleeping better now. I hope you are too. I looked around my quiet, new apartment. The shadows were just shadows. The silence was just silence. For the first time in over a year, I felt a sense of space, of air that wasn't being monitored, of a future that was mine to shape, blank and terrifying and free. I typed a reply, not just to Elena, but to the ghost of the woman I'd been in that dress, to Vivian, to Cassandra, and to the part of me that had survived. I'm getting there. 6 months after the wedding that wasn't. The legal machine finally began to turn with a decisive, grinding click. I was sitting in Claudia Hayes' sleek, minimalist office, sunlight glaring off the chrome accents, when she slid a single sheet of paper across the glass desk. He's taking a deal, she said, her voice devoid of triumph, only the flat satisfaction of a difficult job completed. I stared at the document. It was dense with legalese, but the headline was clear, plea agreement. What does it mean? My voice sounded small in the quiet room. It means he's admitting to it. Scarlett, to avoid a trial, he's pleading guilty to multiple counts of felony fraud, coercion, perjury, witness intimidation, and desecration of human remains. She let the last term hang in the air for a moment. The remains were Cassandra's. They found them buried on that Catskills property. Dental records confirmed it last week. A cold wave, not of shock, but of grim confirmation, washed over me. He hadn't just let her die. He'd hidden her. The hiking accident had always been a lie. And Vivian, I asked, the name now a familiar ache. Claudia's expression softened a fraction. No body. Not yet, but with the evidence from the storage unit, her personal effects. The the diaries detailing his escalating control and combined with Cassandra's. The DA has enough to pursue a murder charge in her case as well. The plea includes a full allocution. He has to stand up in court and tell the judge, under oath, exactly what he did to both of them, to all of you. It's the only way the families agreed to avoid the death penalty. The death penalty, the words were so clinical, so final. I thought of Liam in a prison jumpsuit, stripped of his suits and his charm, forced to narrate his own monstrosity. It was a better justice than I'd dared hope for. He'll do that, confess to everything. His lawyer, Roth, knows a jury would eat him alive after the wedding spectacle. The plea guarantees life without parole. It's a cage, but it's a living one. For a man like Liam, that might be worse than death. Claudia leaned forward. The judge will want a victim impact statement from you. It's not mandatory, but it carries weight. I nodded slowly that I'll do it. The sentencing hearing was held in a different kind of cavernous room than the wedding terrace. This one was all dark wood, hushed whispers, and the weight of the law. I sat between Carol Ross and a surprisingly stoic Robert. Cassandra's family, older, more reserved, sat across the aisle. We didn't speak much, bound together by a shared, horrific thread. Liam was let in. He wore a cheap, ill-fitting suit, his hands cuffed in front of him. He was thinner. His hair lacked its perfect cut, but his posture was still rigid, his gaze scanning the room with a detached, analytical coldness. It was the look from the lockbox, undiluted by any need to perform. When his eyes met mine, there was nothing there. No hatred, no plea, no recognition. I was a variable in a closed equation. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, called the court to order. The DA outlined the horrific details of the plea, the systematic targeting, the financial manipulation, the psychological warfare, the final, violent acts against Cassandra, and the presumed same against Vivian. She used the words predatory pattern and narcissistic pathology. Then it was Liam's turn to speak. Benjamin Roth stood beside him, a hand on his client's shoulder as if to steady him. Liam rose. He didn't look at his parents, who sat weeping in the front row. He faced the judge, his voice a clear, emotionless monotone. I, Liam Thorne, acknowledge and admit that between the years of 2018 and the present, I engaged in a deliberate and calculated pattern of seeking out women who met certain criteria. He spoke as if reading a clinical report. The criteria included professional independence, a degree of artistic or creative inclination, and manageable family ties. The objective was to secure a marital partnership that would provide financial stability and social standing. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. He was describing us like acquisitions. The process involved. He continued identifying their preferences and mirroring them to foster dependency. This included the selection of a specific wedding gown, style Elysian, which I found, aesthetically optimal for the ceremonial photographs. Carol Ross let out a choked sob beside me. He was talking about her daughter's murder in terms of aesthetic preferences. In the case of Cassandra Ross Thorne, he droned on that the partnership proved financially beneficial but interpersonally problematic. On January 15th, 2019, an argument escalated. I administered a combination of her prescribed sedatives and alcohol, intending to subdue her. The dosage was miscalculated. She expired. I transported her remains to a family property and interred them. Cassandra's mother cried out, a sharp, animal sound of pain. Liam didn't even flinch. In the case of Vivian Ross, he said, as if moving to the next bullet point, that her increasing suspicion and attempts to disengage from the relationship presented a similar terminal problem. On October 28th, 2019, I arranged to meet her under the pretext of reconciliation at a remote location. I administered a fatal dose of fentanyl. I disposed of her remains in a manner that has not been recovered. The cold, Meticulous recitation of murder was worse than any outburst of rage. It laid bare the absolute void where his soul should have been. When he finished, the judge simply said, "The court accepts the allocution." She sounded weary to her bones. Then, it was our turn. One by one, the family spoke. Cassandra's sister talked about a vibrant woman who loved modern art and had a laugh that filled a room. Robert Ross, his voice thick with tears, described his daughter as a fierce, talented light, extinguished by a monster in a bespoke suit. When my name was called, I stood. My legs felt weak, but my voice was steady. I didn't look at Liam. I looked at the judge, and then at the families beside me. Your Honor, I began that I am not here today because of a tragedy. I am here because of a narrow escape. I spoke of the dream that became a trap, of the love that was a blueprint, of the dress that was a uniform. He didn't just want to destroy us. He wanted to archive us, to file us away under resolved or discontinued. He saw our lives, our dreams, our autonomy as variables in his own narcissistic project. The greatest injury he inflicted wasn't the threat of violence, though that was real. It was the theft of our own reality. He made us doubt our instincts, our memories, our very sense of self. I stand here today not just for myself, but for Cassandra and Vivian, who cannot. And I stand here to say his project is over. His collection is closed. The only outcome pending now is his, and it deserves to be a lifetime of silence, where his voice, which he used to dismantle so many, is finally the one that goes unheard. I sat down. There was no applause, only a heavy, respectful silence. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, to be served in a maximum security facility. As the bailiffs led him away, he finally turned his head. His eyes found mine one last time. There was no anger, no defeat, just a faint, chilling curiosity, as if I were a puzzle he hadn't quite finished solving. Then he was gone. A year later, on a crisp fall day, I found myself standing outside a small art gallery in Soho. The sign in the window read, "Unfinished, the art legacy of Vivian Ross." The opening was Carol's idea, a way to reclaim her daughter's narrative, to celebrate the creativity he had tried to erase. The gallery was packed, Vivian's vibrant, sometimes melancholic paintings covered the walls. In the center, under a soft spotlight, was a single, empty mannequin, wearing a beautifully reconstructed version of the bohemian wedding gown she had designed for herself, the one from her Instagram, not the Elysian style. It was a ghost, but a triumphant one. I saw Chloe across the room, talking animatedly with a group of people. She'd cut her hair and was wearing a splash of color. She caught my eye and gave a small, solemn nod. We weren't friends, not exactly, but we were allies, bound by a secret where no one else would ever fully understand. Scarlet, I turned. Carol Ross stood beside me, her arm linked with Robert's. She looked older, but her eyes were clear. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Thank you for inviting me." She looked at the painting beside us at the swirl of dark blues and defiant gold titled Echo. "She would have liked you," Carol said softly. "She would have been furious on your behalf. And so grateful you got out." I squeezed her hand, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Later, as I was leaving, my phone buzzed. A text from Allison. "How was it? You okay?" I looked back at the gallery window, glowing warmly in the twilight. Inside, people were laughing, talking, living. Vivian's art was out in the world. "I'm okay," I typed back. It was good, really good. I started walking down the street. The city, noise a comforting blanket. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This one with a 917 area code. New York. The message was simple. Saw the news coverage of the gallery opening. "You looked well. Strong. Elena." I smiled. A real one. and typed back, "So do you. We are." I put the phone in my pocket and kept walking. The past was a closed file. The future was an open street, stretching out before me, noisy, chaotic, and gloriously, terrifyingly mine. The echoes of what had happened would always be there, a faint whisper in quiet moments. But they were just echoes now. The source of the sound was finally, irrevocably, locked away, and for the first time in a very long time, the silence that followed was my own.